Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or if it's your first time, welcome to my channel. My name is Marlene and I talk about eating disorder recovery and everything related to healing the relationship with your own body, with food and with movement. And make sure to stick around for the end of this video because I have some exciting news. But first of all, let's dive in right into the topic as we always do. And today I want to talk about mindful eating and especially mindful eating and eating disorder recovery. Mindful eating is a term that probably came up like 2010, 2012 when Instagram became bigger and everyone was talking about mindful eating in order to eat less, to feel your hunger cues, to feel your appetite, all that kind of stuff. And overall, I'm all about mindfulness. We live in a world where we're constantly on our phones, where we work in front of the computer, and where so many of us are so overstimulated all of the time. So mindfulness itself is not a bad thing. But when it comes to mindful eating, it's often a term that actually is used by the diet culture or by the wellness culture a lot. And especially in eating disorder recovery, it can be quite harmful. If we have an eating disorder or if we're recovering from an eating disorder, food is everything we think about the whole time. Many people who've never had an eating disorder make the mistake and think, oh, somebody who has an eating disorder is just not interested in food and that's why they eat too little. Well, this is not the case. And if you are a sufferer, you know what I'm talking about. We are actually thinking about food all the time. What to eat, what not to eat, when can I eat the next time, all this kind of stuff. Especially in recovery, when we are facing our fear foods and when we're facing restriction and trying to listen to our hunger cues and trying to listen to extreme hunger, it can be very stressful to overthink food and to overthink food choices and to sit there and taste every bite and take hours for a meal. It's actually more disordered behavior than it is healthy behavior. When I was inpatient in 2015, I was in a clinic for eating disorders, and we actually had a rule where we weren't allowed to eat longer than 30 minutes. So the meal time was like 30 minutes because a lot of people who have an eating disorder actually take extremely long to eat. They cut everything into small pieces and they take just a long time to eat. I personally never had this habit, but it's very common in eating disorders. So to go back to that habit and to take so long and taste every bite and overthink the food and the taste and the texture and everything can be quite triggering and pretty counterproductive. Oftentimes, especially in recovery, we need to distract ourselves. It is honestly not a bad thing to sit in front of the TV and eat something. And I know it is against a lot of people in today's world who think we should never eat in front of the TV and it's such a bad thing. But I personally, as somebody who recovered from a restrictive eating disorder, can tell you that eating with distraction is not the most harmful thing. What is harmful is stressing out. Your body is under a lot of stress if you have an eating disorder, and it's probably also under a lot of stress when you are in recovery because you're trying to go against these habits. If you overthink every single bite, you are stressing out even more. That is what is harmful for your body. Not eating in front of the TV, not eating out and talking to friends, not being on your phone. And if this is a habit you want to eventually get rid of, that's fine. But there's a time for everything. And when you just started recovery or while you're in recovery, you don't have to work on these habits, speaking of eating in front of the TV, but you just want to make sure to eat enough. And whatever helps you to do so is great. And I know that this might be an unpopular opinion, but also in binge eating recovery, mindful eating might not always be the thing, because also binge eating is oftentimes actually triggered by restriction, whether it's mental restriction or physical restriction. I made another video about that, so if you want to take a look at that, feel free. But especially when it comes to overcoming any kind of eating disorder, also binge eating, mindful eating might not be the right approach for everyone. I'm not saying it is bad for everyone. There's certainly people out there who say, well, mindful eating helped me so much. But for the most people, I wouldn't recommend mindful eating. When I work with somebody, I'm telling them, try to listen to your mental hunger, try to listen to your physical hunger, and try to get in as much energy as possible. If you take an hour for your meal because you taste every single bite and you overthink the texture and the smell and everything, this might not be helpful towards your recovery. Again, if you in the future want to change your eating habits, want to change that you're watching in front of the TV or that you're on the phone, that is great, but it might not be the right time during your recovery. Another aspect of mindful eating is actually that it wants to make food perfect, that it wants you to always choose the perfect food, always stop in the second when you feel a little bit full. And we all know we shouldn't always listen to our hunger and fullness cures in recovery, especially to the fullness cures. Hunger cures, yes. Fullness cures, better not, because it's very, very tricky to actually find out if you're really full, if it's your eating disorder talking, if it's anxiety, and also if there's mental hunger, it still means you have to eat more. But with mindful eating, we are doing an approach where food has to be perfect, where every bite needs to be tasted, and where we have to listen to every single sensation in our body. Let's face it, let's be honest. Food can be messy. Food is not always perfect. Recovery is messy. Eating is not always perfect, and that's just fine. Nobody who has a very healthy relationship with food needs food to be perfect. Sometimes food needs to be mechanical. Sometimes you're not hungry, but you know I have a long day ahead of me, so I need to eat something. Sometimes you're hungry and there's nothing around that you would love to eat, but you still choose to eat something because you're hungry. So food is not always perfect. And if we want to make food perfect, that's actually another story. So food is not always perfect, and that's actually one thing we work on in coaching. Like if somebody is in an eating disorder or is recovering from an eating disorder, one thing that they often bring up is, oh, I wasted my calories because I chose something and then it wasn't as satisfying or it didn't taste as good as I thought it was, and now I wasted it and now I'm beating myself up for it. This is actually something very, very common. Like the fear to waste calories or the regret of choosing something that you didn't like or that didn't taste as good as you anticipated it to taste. So this is, again, something that you have to learn in recovery. And mindful eating can be very counterproductive with this learning. So when I was in my eating disorder recovery, I ate a lot. I went through extreme hunger. I tried to listen to my mental and physical hunger. And I ate in the weirdest situations. I ate when nobody else was eating. I ate when the food that I actually craved was not around, but I still needed to eat. I was eating when I just knew I didn't eat enough that day. And it was rarely perfect. I actually really started to enjoy food later on in my recovery. Of course, there's the honeymoon phase in the beginning of recovery where you're finally allowed to eat something and it's super exciting. But then there comes a phase where you're actually just eating and where you're having extreme hunger and where you're trying to listen to your extreme hunger and where you're faced with all these emotions and everything that's coming up. And it's far away from perfect. And I would say ever since I moved to LA, I actually started to really enjoy food again. I enjoy to try new things that I actually prohibited myself for so long. I enjoy to eat out with the people I love. I enjoy to try new places, all that kind of stuff. And you will get there, but don't try to make recovery perfect. And don't try to eat mindfully all the time if it's not serving you. Again, of course, there's never a one-size-fits-all approach, pun intended. But I would say for the most people, mindful eating is not helpful in recovery, and it's probably not even the best approach for their lives, because we just don't live in this literally perfect Instagram world where everything is pink and you have your little healthy foods and everything is fine. And I honestly wouldn't even want that. Like, I like the messy days. I like when I end up somewhere where I didn't even plan to go, and then I found out some new food spaces and it's amazing. So instead of concentrating on mindful eating, I would honestly just concentrate on listening to your body, fueling your body. That should be the number one focus in recovery. So I hope this helped. And as I said in the beginning, I have some exciting news. First of all, I talked about it a lot, but as you guys know, I just published my book in English. So the ebook and the paperback book are available on Amazon. And second of all, I will soon start to take in new clients. So if you're interested in working with me, if you're interested in eating disorder recovery coaching, let me know. You don't have to be diagnosed. I work with all kinds of eating disorders, and we will do a free session at the beginning, a free 30-minute intake to make sure that it's the right fit. So let me know if you're interested. And other than that, as always, I will see you in the next one.